Part 2 of my life growing up in Detroit. Yesterday, I talked about the family growing up in Southwest Detroit. And I stopped when I was getting ready to talk about the riots that happened in 1967. So today, I wanted to go into more detail just to explain what the riots were about. Between 1965 and 1968, there was a lot of social unrest in the United States, and a lot of racial riots were happening in various cities all around the country. African Americans were trying to get better jobs. They were trying to get homes that they could afford. They were trying to find a way to live what was known as the American dream, and they were having a hard time doing it. And many times that frustration spilled over into fighting and riots and anger. And that's what happened in Detroit in 1967. I was 17 years old, and the riots happened as a result of what was perceived as oppressive police activity. The police were seen as riot encouragers. And when I say that, I mean that they treated the African Americans with a lot of disrespect. The police force, there were only 50 African Americans on the police force. The rest of the police force was white. And they would stop and exploit African American men. They would arrest them for no reason, without cause. They would accuse them of doing things that they really hadn't done. And people were getting fed up and angry about it. As an example, I remember my brother and I being with my father, and the police surrounded our car and made my father get out. And they asked him where he was coming from, and he told them that he was coming from shopping with my brother and I, and we were going to my grandmother's house to visit. They made him put his hands on the hood of the car, and they frisked him or searched him for any weapons and said that a bank had been robbed, and he looked like the person who robbed the bank. So finally, when my grandparents came out to find out what was going on and they realized that they had the wrong person, they let him go. But this happened a lot in the African American community. And so after a while, the people got really, really frustrated. And on that night, July 23rd, 1967, police were arresting people who were attending an after-hours party. And 85 people were being arrested and put into patrol cars to be taken down to be booked in jail. A crowd grew, and they started throwing rocks at the police. And from there, more people came, and it ended up with thousands of people in the streets fighting. And the fighting lasted for 5 days. It was really a sad time, not only in Detroit, but also in our country. People fighting to be recognized, people fighting to feel that they meant something and that their life meant something. But in the end, they ended up losing a lot. Their homes were destroyed, their businesses were destroyed, and we really have not recuperated from all of that loss. And in many instances, African Americans are still fighting the same fight today. The next video will be regarding post-riot times.